Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
You know, bankers and different people involved in that job, and they offered me a job at Wells Fargo. So I went to Wells Fargo for 10 years.
Okay.
My husband
For Wells Fargo.
Well, at Wells Fargo, I was what they call, I was like a financial advisor. They call it a financial officer. So I studied, took my test, got my securities licenses, and became a personal financial officer at Wells Fargo. And with the person that I met at Wells Fargo, whose husband was working at the Navy as a civilian engineer, actually got a job for my husband, and he stayed there until he retired.
Oh my gosh.
Working for the Navy in the in-house design as an electrical engineer. So that's how he was able to get a job.
Oh, that's cool. So you work at Wells Fargo for 10 years. Then what happens?
I left Wells Fargo and decided to go into real estate. So I got my real estate license with a buddy that I had known while I was actually at the very first company. And so then after a couple of years, I decided to go off on my own. So then I got my broker's license, and my son was at USD at the time, and he was getting ready to graduate. So I put him to work in real estate before he graduated. So by the time he graduated, he was already full speed, and we started our own brokerage.
That's awesome.
And he and I still are working together to this day.
That's awesome. So how long have you owned your brokerage?
Since 2004.
Okay.
Yeah, 2004. Yeah.
So it's been quite a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite
it's a ride up and down.
Yeah, no kidding, especially right now, right?
Yeah.
So what's your favorite thing been about owning your own brokerage?
The freedom to come and go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because in Brazil, since I worked for the utility company, and then I was doing consulting work actually for other government agencies, because I got to be, my late husband was a very well-known consultant. And when he passed away, I inherited the consulting business part of it. Okay. And so I had the freedom to kind of come and go as I needed. And so coming back and being regimented with Wells Fargo for 10 years, that was more challenging, because you have to be in at a certain time, you have to stay a certain time. You're even though I was a personal financial officer, and technically I didn't punch a time clock, but you do have branch hours and that sort of thing. Yeah. Being on my own and a lot, because you end up working more actually, but you have the ability to schedule your own time, and so that freedom. I like that freedom. And the opportunity to work with your son's got to be a big deal too. Yes, that's got to be awesome. Yeah. My daughter just came to work with us about a month ago, and she's 23, and I've loved every second of it. She came to work with us, and within a day she was going to my wife and saying, Mom, I think the top of my head's going to blow off. Dad's a lot, right? And so she's like, I know, honey, I know, it'll get better. It'll be okay, right? Don't worry, you'll get it. Yeah. And a couple of weeks later, I come home and she's like, Dad, I love you, but what you do is boring. Well, I don't know about that, because the market's always changing, because we went through 2008. Yeah. Now we're going through this one, which is actually worse. Yeah. So. Yeah, 2008, I owned a Keller Williams office, and I had almost 200 agents in it, and it was quite an experience. So. Yeah, no, I can imagine. Yeah, you had to do everything you could to get scrappy and make it through, and we did. By the hair of our chinny chin chin, but we made it through. That's right. That's right. So, yeah, it was crazy. So, so you own your own brokerage. Yes. An opportunity came up a few years ago
for you to take a leap of faith to an extent, right? And do you want to talk about that leap of faith that you took?
Are we talking about politics?
We're talking about politics.
Well, in 2008, actually, I was asked by a fellow broker if because she knew I was Republican. And that's actually a story. When we came back from Brazil, my husband and I, we didn't know, I'd never voted because I'd left when I was young. So I never had registered to vote.
Yeah, you were in college.
Yeah, so I never voted. I had never registered. So we came back, we were like, okay, so what are we going to be? And I said, well, everybody tells you, well, if you're for the underdog, then you and the common man, then you should be a Democrat. I said, okay. And then I said, well, let me read the platforms first before we register to figure out, really what we want to register as. So I actually got the platforms and read them. And I remember coming home and telling my husband, oh, there's no way in hell we're going to be Democrats. We are registering Republican, and that's that.
And when was that?
Republican ever since. So
when was that?
That was in 1989.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in 2008, I joined a Republican women's group down here in South Bay. And they asked me to start helping with legislation, writing articles about legislation. That was about the time Obamacare was coming to fruition. So I wrote a lot about the downside of universal health care, because they have universal health care in Brazil. So I'd seen it personally, and it was not good. And from there, then I was asked to write for the county Republican women's group. And then I was an alternate for the Central Committee, a Central Committee member, who she ultimately moved out of state. So then I was able to take her spot. The caucus voted me in. And from there, then it's one of those cases where every time they ask you to do something, you don't know how to say no. So first they asked me to do communications. I said, okay. So then I said, well, what does the community? Well, I know, let's do a county newsletter. I said, okay. So the ideally it was supposed to be everybody was supposed to kick in, but in the reality, nobody kicked in. So I ended up writing the county newsletter by myself for 3.5 years.
Oh no.
And so then from there, the county chair asked me to be secretary. So I was secretary for a year. And then he said, well, do you want to do that again, or do you want to do something? I said, no, I want to do something else. I don't have to do minutes.
Right.
So I became the second vice chair for a couple of years. And then he had already, previous chair had already been there for 14 years. And so he was ready to move on. So actually after one of the Trump boat parades, he took me aside and said, hey, I don't want you to give me an answer right now, but think about it. I'd like you to take over when I leave. And I said, oh, I don't know. That's a big job. And I was totally not expecting it, because I wasn't doing any of this for anything other than to help.
Right.
I had no aspirations in leadership. I had no aspirations in doing anything other than just helping the Republican Party. So I thought about it for a couple of months. I came back. I had a few conditions, and I told, okay, fine, I'll do it. So then in January of 21, at the organizational meeting that we have every 2 years to elect the board and the officers and that sort of thing, I was elected chair.
Yeah, congratulations.
That's where I've been. That's where my life has been since then, because it's all consuming.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Tony is one of my favorite people.
Yeah.
And I think he did a bang up job for 14 years. I know he's still involved and all that, but I think he did.
That was actually one of my conditions, because when I went to go talk to, okay, I'll do it, but you can't just disappear. You got too much institutional knowledge.
Yeah.
So I asked him to stay on as chairman emeritus.
Yeah.
So he helps, and he's always a sounding board if something comes up and I just need another opinion. So he's been very helpful, very helpful.
There's very few people in San Diego County that are as connected as he is
Oh,
inside the party,
100%.
Yeah, I can, that was very smart of you to do that. It's, he's amazing. So I'm obviously one of his biggest fans. So
I am.
yeah, exactly right. So we're up to today, and your brokerage is going well. You're working with your son. You're enjoying yourself. You're the chairwoman of the San Diego County Republican Party for the last couple of years. Actually, going on 3 years, right? Coming up month after next will be 3 years. So what's next for you? What are we working on now? What's coming in the future?
Well, 4 years ago, we started a mortgage bank, which we recently had to suspend banking operations because with the current economy and with the loans and stuff. So we went back to just brokering. So we're involved in the revamp of that. That's a lot of regulatory because we were licensed in like 40 states. So every state has different rules. So that's quite a big job to try to revamp everything and go through the regulatory process. That's not easy. But as far as, so that's what I'm doing professionally. But as far as the party, we're getting geared up, really. I mean, the focus right now is on 2024. We have some important elections coming up, and that's where we want to center our energy on. There's a lot of talk of the federal races, but reality for us here in San Diego County, what we are focused on are the local races.
Right.
We have 2 supervisorial races coming up. We have Supervisor Joel Anderson, which we want to get reelected. And then we have on the coast, we have Mayor Kevin Faulkner running for that supervisorial district on the coast. And it's not that easy because with the redistricting, the lines have changed. So when Supervisor Anderson was originally elected, he was pretty much East County, rural, unincorporated area. Now he's got a big chunk of the city of San Diego. So he is actually going to have a challenging race. So we can't take anything for granted, and we don't. Working hard, and we're going to make sure that he gets across the finish line. And then the opportunity for the district along the coast, which Tara is currently the supervisor, and she's very left wing and not very popular. We did some polling, and we know that because Mayor Faulkner was mayor of San Diego twice, plus he had been on the city council twice, so he has good name recognition in the city of San Diego, and he did a good job in San Diego. So we know that he has a really good, he's positioned well to take that race. But again, you can't take anything for granted. It's going to require a lot of work. So those are the 2 biggest races because they're going to impact all of San Diego County. No matter where you live, if you live in Chula Vista or Escondido, it doesn't matter because having the Republicans in charge of the Board of Supervisors for the County of San Diego is a game changer for San Diego. We've seen where Sandag has come up with these crazy ideas where they want to charge you vehicle mileage tax, which is a tax per mile that you drive. And San Diego County is bigger than a lot of European countries. And can you imagine having to pay for every mile that you drive? And we've worked hard to get that sidetracked, but with the supervisors in charge, we were able to get Jim Desmond reelected. So if we are able to get Mayor Kevin Faulkner elected and reelect Supervisor Joel Anderson, then rational, sane people will be in charge, and so we can not implement some of the crazy ideas that Sandag was coming up with, because since they were not successful at getting the vehicle mileage tax through, now they're coming up with other ideas to increase the taxes. So they're not done. They just were temporarily sidetracked, and we need to make sure we're in charge of the county. But again, because of Sandag, we also have some important municipal races coming up that will only be in November, whereas the supervisor's race will be on March 5th. But the municipal races will be in November. But we have city council races in the city of Oceanside, and we have city council races in the city of Chula Vista.
Mm-hmm.
Chula Vista is important because in the world of Sandag, the city of San Diego and the city of Chula Vista are weighted votes because they have larger populations.
Mm-hmm.
So their vote is worth more than the vote, for example, of Vista,
Mm-hmm.
example. So it's important that we take charge of these cities so that the Sandag rep for those cities is a Republican and can, put into place rational, sane, consumer-friendly policies that will help the county instead of setting it backwards. Because the gentleman who, well, up till now is in charge of, who's the executive director of Sandag, Hassani Krata, if you can believe it, he's Iranian. He got his undergrad and master's degree from the.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.